What is quacking, everybody? So we got our new weapons about a month ago at this point, and the new weapons slap. They be great. Some of them have integrated themselves into the meta. Some of them are just pure fun to play with, big swig supremacy. But we're going to be getting more kits, and I wanted to ponder, what future kits could we get? And I want to do like a little prediction of the kits because I went back and I looked, and 5 specials did not get any love on any of these kits. We got no vac weapons, no wavebreaker weapons, no hammer weapons, no reef weapons, and no zip caster weapons. We also only got 1 tri-strike weapon, 1 missile weapon, and 1 rain. Most specials got 2 for the most part, 2 of each special represented. A couple got 3 like crab, screen, and whale. So I wanted to give a little prediction on what we're going to get in the future with some weapons. I would like to preface this prediction by the weapons that I put all these kits together on were just weapons that I just kind of wanted, I felt more compelled to put these kits on, and I just wanted to kind of, do them good because there was only like, 1 ink brush and stuff like that. I'm going to cover ink brush and wellstring and just kind of added the predictions on there. But I'm sure the way that they're going to do it, they're going to spread the kits out overall over a bunch of different weapons because I didn't cover any of the splatlings or blasters. So I covered just weapons that I felt more compelled to put kits on than other weapons. Now, for the first kit I'm going to be talking about here is 52 gal, and I think it's going to have auto bomb and ultra stamp. The subs are going to vary for the most part. I don't think I'm going to be too accurate with the subs. Maybe specials, I think 52 gal with stamp would be fine. I don't think there's going to be anything crazy. I think vanilla 52 gal is still probably the best one that you could use. I know some people use screen gal as well, but I think 52 gal with auto bomb and ultra stamp wouldn't be too bad at all, and I think it might see some play, but this would just be like a more fun kit. For the most part, you get your 2 shots with the 52 gal. You'll have ultra stamp as well, so you'll just have a stamp to toss around or hammer people, and you got your auto bomb to be relatively annoying. For the next weapon is Blob, and I didn't really know what I wanted to give Blob, like what I would think, because Blob has 2 different modes right now. It has a supportive mode with its vanilla kit, and then you can play Blob Deco very aggressively, getting marker combos, chasing people down with Kraken. So I just kind of came to the consensus where I gave it Splat Wall because it had Wall and S2, and I gave it Wavebreaker to be more supportive, so it just paints a lot like it normally does, and then has Wavebreaker to be supportive for its teammates, along with having Splash Wall for survivability and just being able to sit back and poke the enemy team. Up next we have Decav, and for this one I gave it Splat Bomb and Reef Slider. I was considering Zipcaster, but for this I was really trying not to overlap specials and sub for the most part, and I was trying to make everything relatively unique. So with Decav, I think it's going to get Reef Slider, Splat Bomb. That way, it has a good sub, but, Reef Slider's, kind of not the greatest, but I think it could probably do well with Reef Slider. At least Decav could be very aggressive, and it can use Reef Slider to get away, apply pressure, so it can use Reef Slider in pretty dynamic ways, similar to Dapple's Navo. So I think Splat Bomb Reef Slider would be pretty decent for Decav overall. Up next is E-Leader, and I think for this, while E-Leader does have Mine and Beacons, which are, mines are more of a passive, cover special, and beacons are, more of a supportive special, I think E-Leader could definitely benefit from Torpedo to help its frontline even more with its laser pointering abilities, along top of having Inkstorm with its team, because while, yes, custom E-Leader does have Kraken, which Kraken is good for, covering objectives and stuff like that, as E-Leader, you're not really, some people do rush in with E-Leader Kraken, which is like kind of insane, but for the most part you're using E-Leader's Kraken as like a defense mechanism. You're gonna like pop it for certain things, covering objectives, pushing and stuff like that. So I think Leader with Rain would be very good along with Torpedo, so it can use its kit a little bit more in like a supportive fashion, throwing out torpedoes, throwing out Storm for its team, and then it just has its laser pointer where it's just going to beam people down if they're disrespecting the E-Leader. So I think overall this would be a pretty fine kit. So for X-Blow, I was thinking like, I was going to give it Ink Mine Vac. I was like, maybe that's probably what they'll do. But then I was like, what if they gave it Tenta missiles instead? I think Explo with Tenta missiles would be an absolute annoyance to everybody, as Explo's already pretty annoying with, you know, its arc shots and its explosive shots, and it can just really do a lot and hit behind cover pretty well and apply pressure to the enemy team. So it's going to have ink mines to cover its bases and, you know, cover different areas, especially putting ink mines on zones or, you know, in flank positions. And then it's just going to get Tenta missiles, so you can run some special charge up on this and just hawk out some, you know, Explosher shots, and then boom, Tenta missile. And then if people get chipped by Tenta missiles, you can follow up with your own chip damage and get kills. So I think overall this would be a pretty decent Explo kit for the most part. For Flingza, I was thinking it would have Splat Bomb and Wave Breaker. I think that was a pretty fair kit to, you know, assume it would get, as, you know, they kind of gave Foil Flingza a good sub, but a not so, you know, great special in my opinion. So I think Wave Breaker would still be like a fine, you know, upgrade. I think Foil Flingza could do something with Wave Breaker for its team. Flingza paints a lot, so it'd be able to, you know, hawk out the Wave Breakers like crazy, and then also can use Splat Bomb, so it's going to have a good sub as well. So I think this is like an alright kit for Flingza. And I should probably preface this that I didn't preference at the beginning of this video. All of these kits are probably not going to be the greatest for the most part. Like this Flingza kit's pretty mid, honestly. And that's kind of like what I'm looking at, you know, with the subs and with the specials that, you know, weren't put into the new kits. I said in a previous video that we're going to get more third kits. I think a lot of kits are just going to be very, you know, mid for the most part. We're not going to have these amazing kits. There's going to be some for sure. Like definitely, you know, some Zipcaster kits maybe, or even like some Reef Slider kits. Like I think the Decav kit that I made would be perfectly fine. But Flingza, like this is just pretty mid. And I think most of the kits I made are honestly kind of mid. So yeah. Up next, we have Ink Brush, and I think Angle Shooter Reef Slider is perfectly valid for this thing. It would just probably paint up a lot for Reef Slider and just throw Angle Shooters to be really annoying. Ink Brush paints a lot if you're just mashing that trigger constantly. So I think Reef Slider Angle Shooter is a pretty fair kit to give Ink Brush, I would say so. Up next is NZAP, and I think they would just probably, you know, juice this kit for the most part. I give it Sprinkler because its third kit had Sprinkler in Splatoon 2, and they've kind of kept the tradition with NZAP. They gave Vanilla NZAP Suction Bomb, which it had in Splatoon 2. The second kit had Auto Bomb, so they probably just give it Sprinkler, and then they probably give it, you know, a decent special at least. So I think Triple Ink Strike would be fine on NZAP. I don't think this would be like, you know, used more than than Vanilla NZAP per se. But I think this is an absolutely fine NZAP. You could use this in solo queue if you wanted to just kind of, you know, do things. So I think overall Sprinkler Tri-Strike on an NZAP would be, you know, pretty decent. Now for regular Slosher, I think they would give Suction Bomb. I know in S2 Vanilla Slosher had Suction Bomb and missiles, I believe. But instead of giving this one missiles, I decided to give it Ultra Stamp because, you know, Ultra Stamp wasn't, you know, put on the previous weapons. So Ultra Stamp Suction Bomb for regular Slosher. This would be pretty mid as well. I think Suction Bomb's fine, but I think Slosher would just, you know, the Vanilla kit is just leagues above you know, this kit, as well as, you know, Slosher Deco's kit. So like you're not picking this over a Vanilla Slosher, but I think this would still be like a fine kit. It's a fun kit. I think this would be a fun kit to play, and I think that's, you know, what the kit should strive for, is to be fun. Not everything has to be competitively viable, but I think this would be a fun kit. Not the best kit, but it'd be a fun kit for sure. Next up is Sloshing Machine, and I don't really know what I was thinking, but I gave it Burst Bomb Zipcaster. I think it'd be fine with Zipcaster and to be able to zip around and, you know, two-tap people. I gave it Burst Bomb because, you know, I think that would be pretty interesting. I think Sloshing Machine deserves some love since they're not, you know, reverting any nerfs that they gave it. I think Sloshing Machine is, you know, not in a good place right now for the most part. I think definitely it could be brought back up if they reverse some of the nerfs. I think the nerfs weren't really needed, or some of them might still be needed, but I think overall they can kind of give it some of its power back. And if they do give it some of its power back, you know, they can give it, you know, Burst Bomb, and, you know, that'd be pretty good. So I think this would be a pretty, you know, fun, decent kit to use on Sloshing Machine for sure. Up next is the Splat Roller, and I kind of feel like Toxic Mist Zipcaster would be something they give it. You can use Toxic Mist to kind of trap people, slow people down, get in there, get some kills. I think Roller would definitely benefit from Zipcaster. I think it would be very, similar on par with, a Splatana Stamper and Octobrush. So I think overall Splat Roller would be pretty good. Maybe even like Luna Blaster, because Luna Blaster you can zip around and just kind of one bang people. If you don't hit them with the Zipcaster, you just kind of one bang them. So I think Toxic Mist Zipcaster for Splat Roller would be pretty decent. Up next, we have Splattershot Nova, and this is just a garbage, low tier, bottom tier, trash weapon, and I think it would just have, more supportive capabilities. I don't know if they were even thinking with Anaki Nova, but I think, another Splattershot Nova, they would just give it Beacon Vac. I think that's my prediction for this weapon. It would just be full support. You throw your beacons down, paint, and just use Vac to help your team push. Nothing really more to say about this weapon besides it's just garbage, and I hate it. And the last weapon on the list is Wellstring, and I gave it Ink Mine, Ink Vac. This is, it's the same kit as Ballpoint Nouveau, but I think Wellstring could still utilize this kit for its purpose. Wellstring's just really annoying and obnoxious with how well it paints and the pressure it can absorb when you're facing a really good Wellstring. So I think you use Ink Mines to cover its flanks very well and use Ink Vac to, help aid its team. Again, this is a pretty mid kit as well. Like I said, most of these kits are pretty mid, but I think Wellstring could, utilize something like this for its kit. Alrighty, that is all of the kits that I had. Those are kind of my predictions for what I think some of these kits are going to be. And like I said, I just put these on weapons that, interest me the most, that I would like to see. Like, these were kind of like weapons that I would like to see third kits on the most, for the most part. But you could easily put some of these other kits. Like, I think the Slosher kit I made, you could easily put on like a range blaster or something, or put it on like, another, type of weapon. But those were just my predictions on what I was thinking what some weapons would have. Like I said in a previous video where I said we're getting third kits, the specials, there's some specials that weren't put on these previous kits, so we're gonna be getting some pretty mid to bad kits. I don't expect any of these future kits to be good unless they absolutely neglect these specials. It's not saying that they couldn't still give us stuff with more Crab, Zuka, Bubble, other weapons that could definitely shake up the way the game is played. However, I think they're going to give more love to the specials that didn't get love this time around. So, unfortunately, I think future kits are going to be pretty mid to not the greatest. There might be some juice kits. There might be some kits that can work pretty well. But overall, I think the future is looking pretty mid. But those are just my opinions. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what your predictions are as well. If you got some kit ideas that you think you want to see or what they might put on future weapons. And I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace.